This is a very interesting question, and probably for most parents, the most difficult one to handle because we have grown up on do's and don'ts of our parents, and the whole system of parental kind of corrective work is based on do this, don't do that. And it is a system that we have found does not work. It is a system that just creates barriers and perhaps negative reactions. Sometimes a response just boomerangs, and instead of being corrected, it becomes established even stronger. Because the moment you tell a child, don't do this, instead of it being corrected, it gets repeated more and more. There is ample evidence of that. Just tell a child who's doing nail biting. Now, that's a very common pattern of behavior amongst children who are nervous, anxious, agitated. And you tell the child, don't bite your nail. The moment you say that, the nail biting behavior becomes just full blown and even more. And you must realize that whatever you resist will persist, will become more and more. And if that one principle is registered by the parents, you will realize that obviously that strategy doesn't work. And so the don'ts have to really be put aside and don't ever use it. I know you will use it because I just said don't. So you have to be mindful and watchful and aware of the pattern of behavior you want to correct, and instead use a descriptive way in which you say that instead of biting nails, just see what is it that is triggering that. Is it that you are now very scared of something that you're going to do? Is it that you are not able to think clearly and therefore you're biting your nails? What is it that is causing this? And once you determined the different stimuli that are causing this, then you help the child to change that environmental situations or stimuli, or become more kind of accepting of those situations with less stress, less anxiety, and making the child feel more comfortable. Now, going back to B.F. Skinner, who gave us great pointers on that one too, he said that create an environment. The engineering of your environment is the task of the parent. All those situations that create anxiety, you can map them on a scale in terms of intensity and see what is it that makes the child most anxious, greatly stressed, and then you have to work backwards slowly to create a pattern of response where that anxiety is alleviated rather than just trying to cut off that response. So, for example, what he did was there was this child who was very frightened about furry objects and soft toys and white hair and things like that. So there was a clear understanding that the gray hair was the root cause of this kind of response being established. And how did that get established? The one with the gray hair became a fearful object for the child, since that person reprimanded the child, scolded the child, and corrected the child in a way that caused a lot of anxiety for that child. So you see that this became the first conditioned stimulus to evoke that pattern of response where the child started biting the nails or getting very anxious and fearful of that white hair. Then that white hair generalized to all white furry objects. And so soft toys which had furry white hair became also something that the child really became fearful and anxious about. And then all that which was white and had that kind of a look became also something to be feared. So, in an experimental context, of course, you can map them and see what is causing maximum fear and anxiety and what is not. But in your experience with the child, you can see when old people come to your home, let's say, the child's response is to withdraw or maybe biting nails more. Or in a situation like examinations, when the child really starts biting nails, or when the child has to recite a poetry in class, conduct any kind of speech, then an anxious situation starts happening for the child. So you have to become mindful and aware of these kind of situations and try to desensitize your child to those stimuli instead of really just saying don't do this, because you will not change the underlying emotional disturbance if you just say don't do this. So that don't strategy doesn't work. It's to be discarded. Do this, on the other hand, also doesn't work because it is a reprimand or a command, and children's mindset, or sorry, the acceptance of the parental command just shuts down the mind of the child. It blocks. And that feels then like, oh my God, why is he pushing me to do this so much? There's no reason for me. This works better than that anyway. I'm going to do what I have to do. So this kind of inner dialogue goes on with the child. And that inner dialogue then shapes his behavior much more than your do's and don'ts. So you need to understand what is happening to the child in the inner space of his being and see then how to really correct and get an appropriate behavior, not even correct, but get an appropriate behavior to be established. It is a long process, not as short and quick as do's and don'ts, but that do's and don'ts anyway doesn't work. So it's going to be a prolonged process forever, or probably never get the right response shaped.